contract by August for that. And we've pretty much got everything set up to be able to go forward with that quickly. So it'll be before the first of the year.
We've had previous quotes on that work, we just haven't authorized it, is that right?
Right, yeah. We approved it as a project just because we know we need to get that accurate information, and that's to be able to find leaks by zone. So
can we get a copy of the applicants for contractors to do the job, the bid, before you hire a contractor?
That's
Kampa?
It's on these are all things that we've discussed over time at each one of the board meetings. It's just we're trying to address a lot of things in a single board meeting. A lot of the questions.
It's a simple question of what I'm asking. Can you answer my question?
I'm not sure. If we're talking about bids,
yeah, you
haven't been here for the last 18 months.
You're talking about the contract.
Okay, let me speak, please. Let me address your question. If you're asking about the contracts for the wells and the work that was, are you asking about the work that was done with the wells? Mm-hmm. Yes?
I heard her question is, can she see a copy of future proposals or future contract bids? I'm assuming for the work that is being proposed in this next grant. Is that what you're asking, ma'am?
Yes.
Oh yeah, those contracts will be there'll be a design done by an engineer that'll be approved by the board, and then it will go out to bid, and then the bids will come back, and the board will award a construction contract.
Okay.
So we basically will follow the protocols of going for a request for proposal based on a certain criteria of construction, I'll say measures. What is it? What do we want them to accomplish? It will be very spelled out, very specific, and then they will address back to the board. They will submit their bid of what it's going to cost us, and then the board will say, okay, we're going to vote and award the contract to XYZ contractors. Normal protocols for this.
Because we have a budget, a really short budget, so we need to be careful.
Right, yeah. Right.
The contractor is going.
No, that's we're going to go for get the best bang for our buck.
And that's
and that is going to be public. You can.
You can come here and listen to the proposals and see the contracts and everything else when it's on the agenda. Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah, this is what we've gone through, and I just haven't seen, unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to talk with you about it. At each of the meetings, we've had these conversations ongoing for months, and so.
Okay, I think we've answered that. So
yeah, so I guess moving off of that. Included in your report also is a performance summary covering items that we have accomplished in the year 2015 and into 2016. A lot of those related to dollar values per customer, savings per month in receiving the grants, and the necessity for the wells and all of that information. I addressed the work plan for the DWR grant. Again, this is the first time the district's had grant money. This is an excellent project that is exactly what we need to control our costs and to get our leakage under control. And that is something that's been worked with the state of California. We've had to work through the process of revising that scope of work at their request, because they reduced the funding that was made available. And I won't get into any more detail on that. The other thing is I realize the black and white charts don't do much justice, but if you look on, I assume they're on the website, but certainly on the district Facebook page, these charts show exactly how each of the wells were funded. And that is based on the contracts with the state of California and the federal government.
For those who have your packet, this is what he's referencing. It shows how much was funded by the grants and how much the district contributed towards the completion of each well. Each well, that's what he's referencing. If that's a fair way of putting it. So, and they are black and white, but they are on the website and they are in color. So you can see what we've contributed, and he's coming back around, one of the things I'll just mention in this is if we were to get a loan, and I'm looking for the numbers real quick, and the various grants are broken out in here. If you have a moment to review this document, we were able to get almost $61,000 that we had spent a few years ago on the barge. You get that reimbursed through one of the grants, which was a great find. And then it also mentions in here, let me find it here. If we'd got a loan for some of the wells, every customer it'd be costing each customer about $1,800. You know, if we invested our own money in this process. So I don't know. The grants are a lot of work. I've dealt with, I'll say, the Public Utilities Commission on energy efficiency money for customers, and it is a very rigorous and painful process. So it's not a fun journey to go through to try to secure this for our district. I think it was the right way to go to us not being put in these things, but yes, we do have to comply. So, okay.
So no action is required on that report.
You want to get Randy's report?
Yeah, I just, as Randy has been making it a habit to be here the last few meetings to answer your questions, but we're in the middle of building a pipeline. He is our inspector on that project, documenting all aspects of the pipeline installation. And so that, he's unable to be here with us today. Randy addressed in his written report a couple of things that have been done. It's primarily they have been able to get out and do some pump and motor maintenance at the sites, and that's been something that for the last few years has been difficult to do because they were chasing leaks the majority of the time. Now we've transitioned into having the leaks done in advance, and instead of having those go on for a long period of time, and then we're able to get some of this maintenance done. We did. The biggest project probably, I would say, was pulling all of that pipe out of the lake, because the barge would have been floating out a long way away from shore as the lake level comes up, and so they had to remove a big section of pipe, a couple 100 feet of it, pull it off to the shore, and then, as you can imagine, trying to dismantle that on the shore, they had to pull it over to the ramp and break it apart into pieces. And that was a big project. And so anyway, that's what, again, getting that stabilized now and in its current location, and is going to take up to 20% of our staff time as long as the lake level is fluctuating. Once it stays constant for a while, it should be okay.
So are we at a point where it's going to lessen the efforts of our people, you know, with the lake, where as it fluctuates, are we still sending folks out there to move pipeline? Because the last few times it's taken up a considerable amount of time. If we're at a point, can we foresee that? Is that something we even have an idea?
We do. We can look at what the inflow and outflow is, and once that inflow slows down to the point where it's just outflow,
Gotcha.
and you know what that outflow is predictably, you can pretty much say MID will run a drawdown chart, and we'll know what the lake levels are going to be over time. And what occurred a couple of years ago, when it was predictably dropping down through the summer and fall and into winter, is that once a week we would go out and remove a section of pipe.
So as things settle.
Move and reestablish the mark.
As things settle down, you know, we have a lot of water coming in, obviously.
Right.
So as things settle, it'll be a little bit more predictable.
Yeah, that's why getting the pumps and the control valves and the electrical on the fixed pumps, which are, you know, you don't have to move.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, due to the fact that we're likely going to see that barge be necessary in late fall, unfortunately, because we're just over 50%. I don't know what the exact percentage is, but that is going to leave us likely, because they are going to sell some irrigation water and other things, going to put us at a level where that float pump is going to be absolutely necessary this fall. So we don't want to take it, disconnect it, pull it. We could, but it's just a lot of work.
This is basically just an ongoing thing.
Right, it is now.
As time goes, our commitment from the staff is going to be less and less.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks.
Last month in Randy's report, he mentioned he started flushing hydrants, and I noticed in the last week the state of California has said flushing is out as part of their drought restrictions? Are we going to be able to continue flushing, or is?
We can always flush for water quality. That is absolutely, it is always going to trump any of the just arbitrary requirements that the state comes out with. So we'll have to get a full determination when the state water board finally comes up with a long-term regulation, because now it's obviously transitioning from the governor's mouth to a long-term regulation, and there'll be an interpretation on how that works. They're not going to limit our ability to flush it for to keep the system working or to keep the water supply safe. They will not tell us we can't do that.
Fire protection.
Fire protection is what it is. You know, when you pull, if you've got a fire hydrant, you're going to pull a fire truck up to it. You're going to pull water from it. So I'm not sure flushing to blow water out in the street on a hot day so that kids could play in a fire hydrant is out. I don't know what else. I couldn't imagine what they're talking about.
Thank you.
I can answer that question. You can use storage facilities, which they've done in a lot of cities, and you have to flush them because every 3 years they have to be flushed. That's state law. And the insurance company will tell you, if you don't flush, there's a fire, they're going to charge the district for damages, including criminal charges. And I would hate to see some of you guys being thrown in jail or state prison.
Okay, keep moving, Pete. You have,
I just the other thing that's associated with Randy's report is the outside place of use reports, standard report format. Again, we did answer to the state of California on this. There was a complaint filed related to the outside place of use. A statement was made to the state that we are supplying water outside the place of use and not replacing that with well water or another source of supply. And that's not true. We've submitted the records to the state of California, and they are evaluating that. I'm sure they will respond to whoever submitted the complaint, but it does take a lot of staff time to develop the reports.
when you get a situation like that, do you hear back as well that we were in compliance? Or will we get feedback? I mean, I'm just wondering how the communication cycle works.
I'm following up on it, so
Okay.
I would assume that I'll hear about it, but in many cases, you only hear if they if they have a violation.
Okay, so if we don't hear anything, we can assume that we were in compliance.
Yeah, and well, I'm sure we are. There's nothing,
Well, yeah.
all of the documentation was submitted, and we had records going back to the beginning, but that was.
Okay.
I have a question. Pete,
Yeah.
when you respond to something like that, is that considered under your contractual thing that you do with us as the general manager, or is that under that other part over there where you charge more money like for the drought emergency, or is that considered just part
There
of
are no more expenses. I had one last invoice for the drought emergency related to the USDA grant. Then there are no more. Anything like that is and always has been just a routine, normal thing. It's not unusual to have those things occur, and state agencies ask for stuff all the time. It's just kind of a bummer when they get misinformation and then we have to respond to it.
Okay, thank you.